both of our torsos. Yeah. Hello, it's Miss Heather, piano and voice teacher here at Conservatory of the Ozarks, and I'm joined today by
Sarah.
And Sarah is going to practice breathing, which seems like something you shouldn't have to do, but yeah, we do. So I want to talk about, and I'm sorry if I've said some of these things to you before already, but I want to talk about the shape I'm hoping to see every time you inhale while you're singing when I look at you. And so, and that you should see too. If you want to come closer so you can see your mouth for
I
a
know what you're
sec.
talking about. I had it once, and then I stopped doing it.
So I'm going to pretend I've never said anything about it before because I don't remember what I've said. But so we'll start with the top part or the front part of your vocal tract, which is your mouth, the exit route for the vocal tract. So we want to let the jaw drop down like this. And the tip of the tongue is pressed against the lower teeth, the roots of the lower teeth. Same shape as you make when you're yawning. And then in the back of the vocal tract, back here, still sort of on the top part of the vocal tract, we want to let the base of the tongue sink down, and we can think at the same time that the base of the tongue is allowed to sink down. Can you feel that sensation? Which sort of feels similar to gagging a little bit, unfortunately. There is a term in Italian vocal pedagogy, il vomitore.
Explains exactly what it is.
Yeah, like it. So that feeling of like the onset of a gag, like kind of right before you would gag, just like kind of like the feeling of the right before you yawn. Those actually are helpful sensations when you're thinking of this. So for better or for worse, when I was pregnant, actually, I had a hard time doing these things because it would make me gag. Yeah. So. You want to let the base of the tongue sink down, and then you can think of letting your jaw wrap around your neck. So if you just think of those words, let your jaw wrap around your neck, like what action does that evoke from you?
Space?
Like, no, I mean just try it and see. If you think of wrapping your jaw around your neck. To me, it evokes more movement. Like, I think of like the back moving more as opposed to the front. When I think of a yawn, I think of like my chin coming down.
Okay.
But we want the back sort of more, which makes me think more of like how an elevator would come down as opposed to like a hinge like dropping open.
It's how I get my belty notes out. I know what you're talking about. I just
Okay, good. So
don't do it anymore. I should start doing it again.
And so above where the base of the tongue is relaxing, we want to have the soft palate go up like we're yawning. And so if we had a flashlight, we could see our uvula retract. And then just a little farther back and down, we can think of opening our throat. So it's a process that starts with the lips and the chin going down, tip of the tongue goes down, that's all in front. And then in the back, the base of the tongue sinks down, the soft palate goes up, and then the back of the throat opens as much as you can. So just try making that shape again. Like, I'm not trying to breathe, I'm just trying to make the shape. But try again, try making that shape. Are you able to not let the air come in when you open?
I can, but I can also breathe.
I can't stop the air from coming in. I would have to close my throat to stop the air.
Oh, I can control it.
So see if you can be so open you can't stop air from rushing in. If everything is open, it's like if you took an empty cup and you took the cup and plunged the cup under water, you would see water rush to fill the cup because the cup is surrounded by water pressure, and the water pressure will rush to try to fill any empty space. So if we make the empty space in our vocal tract, we're surrounded by air pressure, which we can't see, unfortunately, but the air is doing the same thing as the water. It will rush to fill the empty space. So all we have to do is make the space, and the breathing will sort of happen naturally. So the next thing we have to think about, we can back up a little bit, is if we make that shape, we can feel the air fill up our tummy. Not actually. That doesn't
Feel when I'm
actually
doing
happen.
it right.
But that it feels like the air is filling up your tummy, which of course is not physically possible, but in voice lessons we have to play all these mind games to try to right? So just try opening and see if you can feel the air go into your tummy for pretend. So we open and the air just springs in, which is sort of like if you put a glass under a faucet of water and the cup is empty, you see the water go all the way to the bottom of the cup and then fill the cup from the bottom up. So that's what, again, just like with the water pressure example, we're trying to use the air in that way, fill up from bottom to top. So we let the air rush down, and we hear either this low-pitched inhale, because we have a lot of space, or maybe almost nothing at all, like when you yawn, maybe. We do not want to hear, which is which it hurts even.
Believe me, I know when I'm doing it right because I can feel it. Because you bashed it into my head.
So, do you mind if I touch you real quick?
I don't care.
And so can you try making the shape and fill up? Pretty good, but I felt, if you don't mind touching me, I felt a little catch. Try again for yourself. Yeah. And so now let's talk about the bottom part of what's happening, which will be this abdominal wall. Just like with the shape up here, we can make that shape without trying to breathe. We can just try to make the shape. We can also do the same thing here. We want to feel this release of the abdominal wall. I can release my abdominal wall like this without breathing. Can you do that? Just like...
Sort of.
So I don't have to push with my muscles to push the abdominal wall out. I could do that, but I don't have to. I can just release. And does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I don't ever want to see you like make your tummy pop out with your muscles. I want you to release your muscles instead for this part. We want no muscle engagement for the inhale. So think of that this time. We open at the top from front to back and release the abdominal wall at the same time. And then can I just feel? So do you hear how you have a little bit of a, did you hear that kind of? That's what I mean by the catching. I just want one smooth, fast opening up to let the air in.
I'm never gonna get this.
No, you're doing great. I mean, like, really picky, right? Like, you're doing great. So let's try again. And then let me feel. Pretty good, pretty good. And then at the same time, if you put your hands on your lower ribs, the bottom of your rib cage, you can feel your bottom rib ascend as you breathe. Like an umbrella opening up. Does that make sense? So you open, 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 and then we release. And then allow the rib cage to ascend. And then if you want to lean over like this, I know this is a weird thing to do, so you sort of have your tummy smushed against your legs, and then you put your hands on your lower back here. Sometimes, it's especially easy if you're sitting, you can feel the expansion in your lower back as well. So all the way around your waist, anywhere a belt would touch, if you're wearing a belt, you want to feel this like a sphere of expansion. And then we also want to release the pelvic floor, which will release in a downward motion. That's the feeling like if you were trying to let yourself pee. So you can just release those muscles at the same time that you release these abdominal wall muscles at the same time. So you have this release down and out, as well as the rib cage ascending, and then the back is also releasing outward. So one more time. And this face you make, I've heard people describe this as like a biting an apple face, like if you had an apple and you're like...
I just think of yawning.
Yawning is a good way.
That's what I think of.
Also, smelling a rose, like how you sort of make your face look if you're going to smell a rose. But I've heard this called the surprise party breath. by I think my teacher Jane maybe. And so it's the idea that if you walked into a surprise party and you were surprised and happy to have this surprise party. So people, if you can imagine, you're the kind of person who would love to have a surprise party. All the people you love best in the world are there. It looks gorgeous, and you feel like so joyful in this moment. And you're like, and try again, releasing out, releasing down, releasing all around. And then the second half, this is the part that I want you to really get. That stretched open feeling in the back, all basically like everything from your neck up, the candy cane shape of your vocal tract, we want to stay the same. Rather than collapsing when you do the exhale.
I do have problems with that when I'm singing. I have noticed it.
Well, that's why I wanted to do this. And so we can then contract the abdominal wall. So we'll do all the same things we just did. Try to keep the top part the same and just contract the abdominal wall and bring your lips into a ooh shape to blow out your birthday cake candles. Here we go. Release. Feel the expansion in the back. Don't let it collapse. Were you able to keep it? Okay, good. And so,
like I said, I know how to do it. I just stopped doing it for some reason.
at the same time that you contract your abdominal wall, you can contract your pelvic floor, which is the feeling of trying not to pee. And you don't really have to do anything to your ribs and your back. Just allow your ribs to soften and your back will, kind of take care of itself. But the contraction of the pelvic floor and the abdominal wall should happen at the same moment, and it's gentle and it's small, but if you can gently squeeze those muscles, you can get a lot more power under your phrasing a lot of times. So we'll open to release, let the air in, and then we will gently contract while we keep the expansion in the back. You have all of that? It's a lot of things to remember.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. Release. Oh, one other thing about the back. So here's your tailbone. Sometimes if I'm very relaxed, particularly if I'm like laying in bed in the morning after I wake up, I can sometimes feel this little feeling of like my tailbone popped out a little bit.
Yeah, we tried that before and I didn't feel it.
So that's one thing to think about, sort of like you're opening up like scissors or like bellows you would use for a fireplace if you think of it like sideways. And then, hey, you know what, we're just talking about breathing. And
because I don't know how to do that correctly.
What was it? Oh, so the other thing you can think about in addition to contracting the pelvic floor and the abdominal wall is this feeling of gently tucking your tailbone. I'm exaggerating, but it's like the feeling of like zipping up. If you're trying to zip up really tight jeans, that a tiny bit of that can go into the contraction part too. So let's just try one more. Release everything and open. Keeping the ball of space in the back, and again. Do you feel the space?
Yeah.
Yay! Okay, any questions about all of that? Great.
I have to get used to that click. The reason I don't open my mouth wide enough when I'm supposed